doing, guys? Today I'm going to start the repower of my 1965 Rugg carpet cut. Currently on the rider I have a rebuilt 4 horsepower Briggs and Stratton engine. This is not the original engine to this rider. The rider's a 65. The motor that's on it is a 64, but I did completely rebuild that motor. It runs absolutely perfectly. So you say, well, why are you repowering it then? Well, in a whole video series prior to this one, I rebuilt this mid-80s 5 horsepower aluminum block L-head motor. The special thing about it is it does have electric start. So what I want to do is upgrade my mid-60s Rugg carpet cut, which was always a rope start, never an electric start, to an electric start engine. So we'll be doing all of that work to get a battery tray in there and wiring and all that stuff. But before we can get to any of that, we got to get the 5 horsepower engine onto the rider itself. In another prior video, I did make a special key insert so that way we can run the original Rugg carpet cut engine pulley on the 1/4 inch keyed shaft that's on the 5 horse engine. Just for starters, as you can tell over here on the workbench, I did take the hood off, I got the steering wheel off, and I got the throttle off. So nothing hardcore, just enough just to get things a little bit started. Specifically, what we're going to need to do next is a little bit more in-depth or a little bit more detailed, but nothing too hardcore. I got on the hood stand, I got to loosen up these bolts. I basically have to lower the deck piece, the engine and the transmission deck, all the way down to snake a wrench up in there, loosen up this bolt. I need the opposing bolt right there I need to loosen up, and then I'm going to remove these bolts all together, this one here and that one there, and then I'll be able to swing the hood stand forward. I'm going to leave the steering shaft in place, and that should give me enough room to snake this engine out and snake that engine in without scratching it. So let me go ahead, let's get that part done, and then we'll move on to the next steps. Alrighty, got the engine off. Man, was that thing an oil leaker. This thing was covered in oil, top side and bottom side. That's one thing, if you have an engine done by me, you got to be prepared. They're all oil leakers. So I just, oil pans and me, we just don't get along very well. But the old 4 horse is off. It's on these blocks just for now, so that way it has a place to sit. I am going to go ahead and grab the 5 off the engine stand, and we are going to go ahead and drop it in place. I did leave this bolt here only because it's right on top of this pulley, and I'd have to take this whole thing apart in order to get this bolt out. It doesn't matter, I'm going to use this bolt anyways, so just left it in place. Just got to line it up when I drop the motor in place. So with that, let's go ahead and see if that old 5 will fit. As you can see, I was having some issues with the approach to get that motor in, so I ended up having to basically disconnect this steering shaft. I'm trying to leave it all in place because to get the tie rods off, I literally have to take a spindle off, and I'm trying not to totally field strip this thing again, but I think now I have enough room. So let me go ahead, let's do a take 2, or actually take 3, to see if we can get that engine on there. Okay, the engine is bolted down. I have all 4 bolts in place. There's one right here. There's one right there. Now, the 2 on this side are in pretty difficult spots. There's one buried right in there. but I was able to find this old 1/2-inch wrench in my toolbox, which is like super thin. So I was able to snake it in there and hold that nut while I tightened it up. The other bolt is buried where, let's see, hang on. Stick with me here. The other bolt is right there, that shiny one. And it's up underneath the motor, but I got that in there with a little magnetic piece. I got the washer on first, and I held the nut with this magnetic, extension, and I got it started, but then ultimately used a wrench to hold it in place. So the engine's in. The only thing that I can see that might be an issue is right here on the clutch. It does almost make contact, doesn't quite make contact with the starter motor, but it really should only go to about that position. I don't have the belt on with the pulleys, so I don't foresee an issue with that. Have more than enough room here underneath the blower cover. Even though this is a 1/2 inch taller than the other engine, the deck is flush with the frame, so when I want to go change the oil, we should be all set there. So overall, and the rectifier is right there, so it's a tight fit, but it's in there. I'm going to go ahead and I got to put the muffler back on. I'm going to put the muffler on. I'm going to put the engine pulley on. I'm going to put the hood stand back together, get the belts on it, and then we'll go from there. Oh, there is one small issue. This pulley right here, this idler pulley, I loosened up this nut because you can see there's an engine bolt right above it. I thought maybe I might have to take that off to get to the engine bolt. Well, I didn't, but I loosened up that nut, and of course it's a jam nut, so the bolt itself is spinning. I can't get to the top of the pulley to stop the bolt from spinning, so I'm gonna have to figure something out there to tighten up that nut, so that way that idler pulley for the drive doesn't come loose on me. But all in all, I mean, for just taking an engine off and putting an engine on that wasn't designed to be on this thing, so far, no modifications. Before I put the engine pulley on, I decided to go ahead and put the hood stand apparatus back together, got the steering back together. It turns and just as smooth as it ever did. I did get the muffler on, so that thing's all set to go. And you can just see how, even with the 4-horse engine, how tight packed this little rider is. I mean, this is ridiculous the way they designed it. I mean, you literally cannot get anywhere. I mean, if you need to take the air cleaner off, you literally have to take the whole thing apart in order to get the air cleaner off. And that's how it was originally, not just because of this motor. But in general, we have everything all kind of put back together, so I'm real stoked about that. I got my little bit of grease to kind of glue the key insert in the pulley so I can get this back on the engine. This is all lubed up and greased. Same with this. This pulley, if you didn't know, is what drives the transmission. This half and that half, when you engage this arm, okay, it rams the belt. It rams a belt into this. This actually sits like this. And that belt causes friction to cause this whole piece to spin, okay? The engine, it's actually kind of weird. There's an idler pulley over here. I'll show you underneath in a second or two. But that pulley pushes out, which then creates the V-belt to create friction between the top half and the lower half of the pulley, and that's what turns the blade. So it's kind of funny. The blade is not directly connected to the crankshaft at all. So if the blade hits something, the belt will slip instead of, transferring that stagnant stopping power to the crank, which is kind of neat, but a little bit cumbersome. And really, to be honest with you, if you don't have these two pieces, I don't know. I think the rug that you're looking at is probably 100% useless, because you can't if you don't have the bottom, like the rug I have outside doesn't have the bottom piece, so you can't run a blade. It does have the top piece, but then it's just a riding kind of situation. This one here, I was super lucky. It had both pieces, so I am able to put a blade on it, and if I wanted to, I could mow the lawn. All right, so let's get set up. Hopefully I can line this up as easy as I did the test fit, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so everything's in place. Everything seems to line up real good, just like the other motor. This arm right here, when I flip it forward, that engages the blade. And if you notice, there's that pulley right there. That engages, or that pushes forward with the spring tension. And when that belt jams into the V of the two pieces of the pulley, that's what actually connects both sides of the pulley and spins the blade. Kind of a neat setup. The upper pulley is always is attached to the motor. This idler pulley, when it forces over when you step on the pedal, that's what creates the friction for that belt and turns the transmission. So kind of a neat setup. A little bit over-engineered for such a, for this kind of rider, but in general, kind of neat. Sorry about my finger. Oh, I'm gonna get up off the floor. So there it is. The 5 horsepower electric start engine is all in place. I'm real happy with the way it fits. Oh, and the other thing too, once the belt was in place and I go ahead and push on this clutch, even fully engaged, you can see it's real close to the starter, but doesn't touch it. So can't complain about that. So it's tight in there, but everything clears, everything works as it should, as far as I could tell. So I'm really excited about that. I think that's it for today. Next up, I'm going to have to design and figure out where I want to put the battery tray, because the battery's going to go right there. It's really the only spot I have. Over here, you're right in line with the muffler. Probably not the greatest idea. Probably not a great idea to put it here either, but it's the biggest open area. Maybe here is the place to put the battery, and I'll just put a heat shield or something. I don't know, but the battery's going to have to go somewhere in this front area. I was thinking about doing something back there, but it's just so tight and small that, I don't know, I'll have to rethink that. But at this point in time, the 5 horsepower electric start Briggs & Stratton engine, it's installed. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you could please like, share, and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Leave a comment below. Either you like it, you don't like it, have a suggestion, or maybe just something better. Maybe you've done something like this and you have a thought to give me. So by all means, please leave a comment. And as always, until the next video or the next project, you have a great day.